announcement from Benjamin C. Steele talking to you about wearing a mask. Not this one, but this one. With everything going on right now with this pandemic, you need to wear a mask. My mask is for your safety. Your mask is for mine. I don't care what your uncles, brothers, best friends, mailman's roommate from college put on social media. Chances are they didn't think it through, and there's a very better than average chance that they're an idiot. So when you go outside, you put on your little mask over your face, put the little straps around your ears, and we're all going to be a lot safer. This is a team.
Parental discretion is advised.
This show is brought to you by IndyWrestling.us and IndyWrestling.network for your independent wrestling entertainment. Slice on Broadway, supporting Pittsburgh podcasting with the perfect pepperoni pizza. Just Pro Wrestling News Podcast. No filler, no pop-ups. Production services by Sidekick Media Services. And listeners like you, supporting us at patreon.com/Wrestling Mayhem Show. It is the Wrestling Mayhem Show. Over 820 episodes. We've been talking about professionalized wrestling. I'm Mike Sorg at Sorgatron on the Twitter here in the Sorgatron Media Studios in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Ready to talk wrestling with you as we do. It's the Tuesday night party, if you will. And we got a hell of a crew with us tonight. And very exciting because somebody's getting towed in front. Oh, no, that's it. There, somebody's getting towed in front of the studio right now. Oh my God, that they are not getting back to Florida because that's the plates that were on that car. So they're going to be very, very sad, and we'll probably get a reaction shot in a while. There's a mysterious person there in that. I'm sorry, audio people, by the way, but that's usually the way. But anyways, we do have with us first from Beacon, New York. He's the only Mayhemmer with a future endeavor letter from the WWE. He is Mad Mike.
Oh yeah, Sorg, and I am wearing my Jurassic Valley T-shirt from Hawaii.
Jurassic Valley, yeah, that's right. You visited that.
Yeah, I went to Jurassic Valley. It was great.
Yes, I love it. I love it.
Only got chased by 3 dinosaurs.
3 dinosaurs.
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy. Also with us from Riz Plays Games, the Riz.
I'm wearing my orange shirt. It's very comfortable.
So you can see him at night.
Yes, it's very, very reflective in my dark ass room here.
Okay.
But yeah. I really want to see the I went in the corner like when we like do the post thing here, Sorg.
Mm-hmm.
I went in the corner, just the live shot of your angle of the car.
Well, wait, hold on a second. So we can do at least this situation. So we'll do that. Oh wait, no, that would do that, and then I'm in the corner. So now I can play-by-play things as it's going. You can see the car is being pulled onto the flatbed right now, and. And then ducking out of the shot, first time on the show, but not the first time in the studio.
Yeah.
I was worried because I didn't give her an address. I'm like, oh wait, she has been here before. And Emily Fear is joining us now on the couch in the studio of the Grit and Glitter podcast, and somebody who I read all the time on Twitter. No, it's great to have you back in. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me back. It's cool to join this show. I think I was on twice on the other show to talk about intergender wrestling. So.
Was it twice? Do we do? Oh, you were on both panels.
Yeah.
Okay, they all replay and they all mush in my head.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think it was all the same people on both the panels. So.
Right, because it was Badger and Ziggy. And
Marcus and D.
And yes. So those are great, and so much has happened. So no, we were blocking a train with that situation out there. So
no.
Well, I mean, what are you gonna do? You know, we're the last mile in Pittsburgh.
Technically, he was blocking that train.
Yes, Florida was filing things up, and they're going to show up, and I'm going to see some confused people very, very shortly, I think. So,
do you have a camera recording on?
It is not recording until I switch to this, which they'll see that we're looking at them inside the screen, inside here. On the screen that I have set up as a monitor for Emily here, so that you can see your beautiful faces out there, internet land. But anyways, you're here on such an exciting night.
I didn't expect all this action and intrigue.
Welcome to Beachview. We have a taco stand and free towing. Thank you, City of Pittsburgh. That's what I pay taxes for, apparently. But anyways, I'm just thinking. I just in my head started thinking of a Florida Man headline for later. Please let me know Florida Man headlines for our current situation in front of the studio in the chat room. And you're on all the chat rooms.
No, sorry, I got one already.
Hmm.
Florida man tries to escape FBI by parking in front of local podcast studio.
There you go. There you go. And show title apparently. Anyways, this is the Wrestling Mayhem Show. You can check out everything at WrestlingMayhemShow.com. You can hit us up at that email address. Good times at WrestlingMayhemShow.com or 412-206-WMS0. You can hit us up on all the social medias, including at Mayhem Show on the Twitter. And we are streaming live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And just double check in here. Yes, and we are streaming. So
Yes, we are.
make sure I'm not a liar, and we've just been talking to ourselves the whole time. But we are streaming live on the Wrestling Mayhem Show, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, on the Sorgatron Media Twitch page, and on the IndyWrestling.us Twitch and YouTube pages, and I think the Twitter as well. And we have the chat rooms for, I think, all but one of those. And we are experimenting. I understand it's a little staticky or something, but we have been playing with. We are also streaming the audio to Twitter Spaces if you would like to participate that way. So thank you, everybody that is participating and in there and hanging out in all of these chat rooms. We do appreciate it. And also, thank you to our Patreon supporters over at patreon.com/Wrestling Mayhem Show. Thank you to our friends at the fan of the show level. Bo Diggity! Woo! As well as Ed Burke and Team Hammer Fist. At the Poppy Club level, Dave Ponder and Bobby F. J. Town. At the Pizza Club level, Doc Remedy and The Riz. Hi, Riz. That's you. And at the manager level, Bradley and the mother of dragons, Tina Keys. You guys can support the show, too. We throw some extra content out there every once in a while, or sometimes have calls to action to join us on the show. As we did a couple of weeks ago after the Vince McMahon retirement, we invited everybody on, I think, on the Monday night show to come and get their opinions heard there. So you can become part of that community at patreon.com/Wrestling Mayhem Show. And thank you so much, everybody that does continue to support the show. So let's get into the news of the week. We touched a little bit on last night, but since I mean, and if you're missing it, of course, Monday night has returned to its old roots of recapping Monday Night Raw, because it doesn't make us sad anymore. So, and I guess before I get into, I want to get into some AEW news, but since we do have some other voices here, I do want to. We should probably touch base on that too. So Riz, Emily, I mean, have you been regularly watching WWE since the big changeover, since Papa H got involved, and has the vibe been different to you as well?
I still don't watch WWE.
Okay.
I have long had a habit of not watching WWE, so I haven't broken that habit yet. I'm giving it some time before I put a toe in. I watch a lot of other wrestling.
Oh yeah.
So it's so much more to add in if I'm going to dive in there, and I'm not willing to do it kind of superficially. If I'm going to go in, I'm going to go all the way. Can I dedicate 5 hours of my life to this every week? Exactly. Am I going to watch Raw? Am I going to watch SmackDown? Am I going to watch NXT?
Mm-hmm.
And NXT is probably the only product in the last couple of years that I would have had any interest in.
Right.
And then they fucked it all up.
And then then it became this paint splattered throw up situation going on. Although
Okay. There are, as I've said before,
I know you were just telling me.
NXT,
I know.
The highs on NXT are very, very high.
I literally
Carmelo Hayes.
I feel bad.
Carmelo Hayes is a wonder.
And I feel bad because I pointed over and literally Apollo Crews and Roderick Strong were the ones on the screen.
Yeah,
so I immediately regretted that comment. It was a little extreme, but I got feelings. Okay, so. I get it. No, I get it. So, but it's still like this is definitely not bringing me back yet. And we just put it on the studio just in case there's something of significance, like Dolph Ziggler shows up or something, right? That we need to talk about.
Hold on. Dolph Ziggler showing up anywhere is not significant.
You shut your mouth.
Hey, like
I will.
He's already been NXT champion. You didn't watch it then.
Riz is a Dolph defender. What's up?
The first match I watched last night, and I will watch it over and over again, is a Chad Gable versus Dolph Ziggler match. It worked.
Yes.
Those two can like fight anytime, anywhere.
Yes.
And I will watch it.
I was talking with somebody on Twitter earlier today. It said like dark horse match of the night was that one for sure.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, because it was just like they mentioned him, Kent State wrestler, of course Chad Gable, right? And they just like had a match, right? Like they just went at it for a little bit.
There wasn't a point. There wasn't a
no.
Was there a point? I don't know.
No,
It was just a match.
I love.
And it was.
I love when amateur wrestlers just have an amateur semi shoot match, for a little bit. I loved when Brock and Angle did it a little bit, right, at Mania one year. I love that, it's just so it brings it brings it back real again to me a little bit.
Right.
Yeah, like I don't want to completely. I don't want to say that I'm completely out of the loop. Like I've seen a lot of the people who are still involved in WWE on their rosters because I watch the Royal Rumble every year.
Yeah.
Because you kind of have to. And I check in on pay-per-views here and there. We don't do a lot of WWE coverage on my show just because of how much Harley and I don't care about WWE. And he used to do full-time coverage of NXT for the PW Torch, but then got burned out on doing that.
Yep.
So
doing God's work.
after he got burned out of that, then both of us were basically like, well, we stopped doing the ROH show because it was bumming us out. Why do we want to? We've started this new enterprise where we get to do whatever we want as long as it regards women's wrestling. So why do we want to focus on stuff that we're not that passionate about?
Yep.
And we're forcing ourselves to do. And we kind of did here and there. Our early episodes featured coverage on various pay-per-views and matches amongst the women's division, but it wasn't our thing, and we were like, we don't have to force ourselves to do this. We'd rather dedicate that time and highlight people in the indies and promotions that don't have any of that kind of press. And
Right, WWE doesn't need us to talk about them.
we don't.
They got Sports Illustrated and ESPN right now.
Exactly. We weren't filling a void.
Yes, exactly.
And the thing is, we couldn't talk about it great because we weren't covering it regularly.
Yeah.
So we would talk about our 2 cents about it, but it's like, who cares what these two bozos are saying? They don't watch it every week. So yeah, like my opinions on WWE take with a grain, the grainiest of salt.
Right.
tiniest of
And
grains.
that's fine. Like I've been bad at I've been a dedicated WWE watcher since 1998, and had watched WWF since the late 80s, and this is the first time that I was like, well, I guess the second time, because technically in the 90s I fell out and said, I don't get it anymore. I didn't have cable, so it didn't make any sense. And it was just like, this doesn't work for me. Again, right now there's plenty else. Why am I bothering with Monday Night, right? And these guys have been filling me in. We watch pay-per-views, and I love the pay-per-views, and it's fine, so. But no, I mean, it's definitely been interesting. Obviously, as we've discussed, at least briefly last night, we are seeing comebacks. We are seeing Karrion Kross and Scarlett come back. We saw Dexter come back, Dakota Kai at SummerSlam. So there's definitely something of a righting of the ship. Even little things like supposedly the words wrestler and wrestling are no longer banned. Apparently, the gunshot during Ricochet's entrance is gone. So like the imprint is there. And if you, and I feel like, I feel like this is something we've theorized for years, right? Is like, wait till Triple H takes over. This will be the way he wants it. We know we have an outline of what he thinks wrestling is from NXT. That was his, I believe, his unfettered vision of professional wrestling in WWE.
Yeah.
Right?
Some of those takeovers I would stack up against any major pay-per-view.
Yeah, any Ring of Honor, even the stuff that us wrestling marks, geeks love, right? Like there was nothing better than NXT, for as much as Ring of Honor is amazing for how many years, right? But they really took all the good things that we were loving on the indies and made it an awesome, I don't want to even say polished, but it was, right? But it had a really cool vibe to it. It was the anti-culture to WWE, but you're still in WWE, kind of thing. So now, as we talked about last night, we're definitely seeing those little things, even to the point where the parking lot is a dangerous place. But anyways, so we'll be talking, of course, more about that as we go. Let me see if there's anything in the chat room. The announcers say fans and not WWE Universe, partner says. Let's see. Io Bailey. EO, Bailey, and Dakota back on Raw is very good. Let's see what else. We didn't think it would be this soon, right? Right? And again, what did I say? When we were first dealing with the Saudi shows, the only ones that are going to bring down WWE is WWE.
Yes.
Right? And it turns out I was almost right. So the only one that's going to bring down Vince was Vince. And we have updates to our headlines. Florida man stranded in Pittsburgh, still seeking Gator to wrestle. Somebody call Beast Man, because we may have a service for him very soon. Florida man raided by... No, that's for something else. I'm trying not to continue the political thing. So let's see. Oh, and it's everyone's favorite librarian who talks wrestling. Hey!
Hey.
Wait, that's Mike.
And let's see. Anyways, the big thing, and we touched on it briefly last night, but I want to get a little deeper into it now that we've seen a little bit more from it. There was some hirings and shuffling a little bit at AEW for, I believe these were talent relation departments, correct? I'm pulling up the article now, so bear with me a moment. But of course, we talked about Madison Rayne last night, which I think is and also Madison Rayne still has storylines going on in Impact Wrestling.
Yes.
I was watching last week's episode today, and I'm just like, and she's setting up for a match at Emergence this Friday.
Yeah.
I'm sure it'll be the last. I don't think she's winning the title, but
Yeah, don't think she's winning the title. I was just telling my partner last night because he was watching Rampage from Friday. So we watched the Madison Rayne versus Layla Gray match on Rampage, and I was commenting about how cool it was to see Madison come into AEW, and how the fact that they're going to use her in this like coaching role is so cool, and they need it. They need someone with that veteran hand, and I think that she is underappreciated across the board. But what? It wasn't even a year ago that she had retired from wrestling.
I filmed her last independent match.
Yeah, not just retired from wrestling, not just retired from like actively like in ring wrestling, but like retired from commentary and on screen stuff, and was apparently going to leave the business entirely. And I think that lasted like 8 months, and then she's back wrestling. She lasted
about half of Terry Funk.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, it's a wrestling retirement.
Yes.
It's a wrestling retirement. It's good to see that women wrestlers are not immune to that anymore, because honestly, a lot of times when women wrestlers retired, they did not come back as actively as that.
And at the time they retire at like 28.
Yeah.
Which is always weird. Like it's weird Paige talking about being retired, accomplishing everything she wanted to already. I'm like, really? Yeah. Right? You were here when you were like 20. Right? It was, and I know it's a different, the business, especially WWE, the business is different for women up there. It's getting more similar now, it feels, but still, like, it's just wild to think that, you know.
Well, I just had someone comment about age discrepancies in wrestling still, and especially amongst major promotions, and how old various talent is. And I think you are seeing the age range for women wrestlers not necessarily raise from like this to this, but more like expand. Because it used to be like, if you were a female and you were wrestling in WWE or anywhere, and you were in your late 20s, the door, the window, the room was starting to go dark for you. Like you were starting to like make your segue out in Western wrestling.
Yeah.
And in major Japanese promotions as well too, but like in a lot of other areas you could continue wrestling indefinitely as long as you were healthy enough to do so. But I am seeing in the last like several years a continuation of women being on the scene, and women wrestlers, maybe especially as veterans, like maybe having retirement tours that go longer than a year and end up not really being retirement tours so much as like a endless pseudo retirement decade. So I think of people like Lufisto, who I think keeps saying that she's going to retire, but I don't know that I believe it, because of course, again, like Mike said, it's wrestling retirement. Like
Yes.
you can't entirely trust a wrestling retirement. But it's cool to see that women wrestlers are now doing that, because male wrestlers did it for so long.
Yeah, exactly. There was, and I think Mercedes Martinez, she's like a 20-year vet, I think. Serena.
22 years, I think. We
Yeah,
we did a spotlight episode on her not long ago, and I think she's like 22 years into her career.
Wow. Serena Deeb, of course. And it's good that there's like, I hate to use the word elder statesman of women's wrestling, but with the lack of a better idea. Because I had commented a while ago about how, like, I looked at like the training scene, like say in Pittsburgh, and how the women's, that problem with independent wrestling, where we have one woman and we bring in somebody every once in a while, and how many times have I seen Katie Arquette and Zoe Sky, right? In how many promotions across how many states, right? Because there's like 5 regular women between here and Ohio, unfortunately, right? And how are they going to grow until they, and become a thing? And that's a whole thing. But then, like, you looked at the training scene, and there were no women trainers, because no women, I don't want to say stuck with it, but like did not stick around. Either they went somewhere or they left wrestling, because wrestling was probably a fucking shit show for them, to be quite honest, knowing some of the promoters they probably had to deal with, and so there wasn't like that ingrained, like now we have the Serena Deebs and we have the Sarah Amatos at Performance Center and things like that, at least on that level. We do have some places, like I think it was Kennedy School has what's her name, Molly Holly, as a part of that, or things like that. So like it's good to see more and more of those WWE vets not disappear, still in the training in those. But again, like I don't think we have a women's based trainer here in Pittsburgh, to my awareness, at any of the schools, and that's not a detriment to any school. It's just that's the situation. So, but like, can you think of a woman in Pittsburgh vet that is, I can think of a couple. Stacey Hunter, and it was involved with Fight Underground, for instance, but nobody regularly, right? And then she was great, and she was a great mind for helping the girls out that were a part of that project. So I mean, there needs to be like that foundation building still needs to happen a little bit, right?
Yeah, definitely. There needs to be. I mean, I think you made the point of like people need to stick around. Like,
yes,
I do think when you have a smaller pool of talent that is coming up, like you have like women and non like cisgender wrestlers who are coming up, and once they make a name for themselves, they're under the kind of demand as wrestlers where their life as a trainer can't really begin until their demand as a wrestler goes down, right? So they need to be in demand as much as in the instructional role as they are in the ring, and that's not going to be outpaced for a while.
Yeah.
You see these up-and-comers who start to get noticed on a regional level, on a national level, and what are they going to do? They're going to turn down that attention. They're going to get more consistent and paid work that way for now than they would with the occasional training gig.
Exactly. They're either okay enough to go somewhere else, or not okay enough that they just leave, and there's just there's not the pull to grow. Let's go around to the rest of the AEW kind of lineup here, what they're doing here, and it's good that they're kind of solidifying these things. There's more great minds that we've always talked about, like when people get hired, like Mark Henry and Matt Hardy and guys like that over Christian Cage, they're not just there to be on TV. Like, that's nice. We can say, hey, there's some names, and people will come in and tune in and hopefully stick around. But like, they are also bringing that experience with them. You got to think every one of those, Paul White, all of those guys are sitting there talking to the private parties and the Jungle Boys and helping them get to the next level on a platform that they have. So according to the press release that was posted by Tina, thank you. Sorry I didn't find it last night when I was tripping over myself as usual. So these were upgrades for Sonjay Dutt. He has been promoted to Vice President of Production and Creative Coordination. Was good. He had a production role, I believe, with Impact Wrestling for a bit.
Oh, yeah.
And I have him to thank for some of the jobs that I've had. QT Marshall, who's obviously been he's been background for a while, because I know he's had contacts. I think he was my contact when we almost shot a vignette for them years ago. He's been promoted to Vice President of Show and Creative Coordination. Pat Buck, which is the name that's going. I think Pat Buck is a former WWE guy.
Yes.
Right?
He was the guy that feuded with Tamina. Not Tamina, Nia Jax for a little bit.
Oh, really? Wait a minute.
No, don't you remember that? He was the WWE official that Nia Jax beat
okay.
the shit out.
Yeah. He got promoted to Vice President of Talent Development. Tony Schiavone is senior producer and special advisor to talent. And of course, Madison Rayne is coach in the women's division. And obviously they're throwing her in with Jade, which, as I talked about last night, is a great teaching moment for Jade to get in the ring with somebody like Madison. And they also throw on commentary. I was watching the special episode today from Thursday that they dropped of Dark, and she was on commentary for that to introduce her because they were in Columbus. So. Makes sense.
She did commentary for Impact for a while, and she got pretty darn good at it.
She did. So I think that's great. I think shoring that up, and that will make AEW a stronger product. All the kind of production wrestling story kind of holes. Hopefully, I mean, it's never going to be perfect. Like, let's be honest, it's still a young company figuring it out its way.
Wrestling is never perfect.
Wrestling is never perfect. Yes.
We
Lucha Underground came pretty close.
No, but yes, not wrong. Not wrong. But also, lots of post production and a killer writing room, right? Without a
you know what?
Maybe
wrestling could go a lot of post production. I mean, it's a TV show.
Yeah.
Well, you still have a live crowd there.
Well, when you think about it, Lucha Underground was post production. MLW is a post production show. Ring of Honor has been a post production show for network TV,
Wrestling
so it kind of had a
Society
different
X
Wrestling Society X. Thank you for that.
Wow. Women of Wrestling. Wow.
Oh yeah, Women of Wrestling, right?
All 5 of us who watched that.
I thought you were like, I thought you were like, wow, they brought up Wrestling Society X.
No, are we going to talk Wrestling Society X?
Listen, you're talking to 2 people on this call who own the DVD set and watched it together.
Cannot make that claim. I cannot make that claim, but I can say that I've seen and read more than I've seen.
I know, right? Who did I run into?
Experience.
Honestly, it's an experience. There might be 1 DVD set left. I think there were 3.
Yeah, there were like 3 on Amazon, and we bought 2.
It was really because we kind of made the snap decision during a podcast. Like, are we doing this? Are we both buying it?
It was like $20. It was $20.
$20. It was a good deal.
It was like 5 discs. I was just like, this is.
To be fair, wasn't this during the first summer of COVID?
I'm sure it was. We were really.
We have nothing else to do?
We were really looking for things to do.
That's a quarantine desperation move, right?
It was. Oh, it was.
That was our baking bread.
Yeah, exactly. That was baking bread.
Yeah.
What was the bread? Oh, it was a
Wrestling
special
Sourdough X.
Sourdough. Wrestling X Sourdough. There you go. Wrestling Sourdough X. Show title.
And then remember when I found the bonus feature Sork?
Oh, they got weird.
Yeah, the bonus features got real weird on the DVD.
Yes, they did.
Oh man.
Oh wow. I really need to move on here before we just lose complete line of this thing. Let's see. Wrestling Sourdough X and captured. Anyways, if you like wrestling, if you like seeing people before they get wet on your TV, if you want to see some compilations of people on your TV, we have a couple of those over there at IndyWrestling.us. Including, hey, some guy that looks sort of like Ezekiel and Elias. We got a best of him over there. Shane Taylor.
Is it Elrod?
It might be.
Have the best of Elrod?
Maybe it was been Elrod this whole time. Maybe we never talked to Elias.
Wait, does the L stand for Logan?
Maybe. I don't know. Or Logan Schuler's the 4th brother. I'm not sure anymore, okay? I thought I knew the guy, and apparently not. But we got a lot of stuff in there. You can do your research as well over at IndyWrestling.us. Between that, we got VODs, digital downloads, DVDs, and of course the membership Indie Wrestling Network and the ringside members over at the IndyWrestling.us YouTube page. You can check out all kinds of stuff, including monthly shows or regular shows. I'm going to say monthly because none of them are monthly. Our friends at Victory Championship Wrestling featuring Beastman, Rise Wrestling, that's going to be returning here in Baldwin here at the beginning of September. Again, you know I love when the Pittsburgh shows are happening. Our friends at Prospect Pro Wrestling. I got 2 more matches to edit from this past weekend. It's been an awesome show. They haven't had a show since May, and I'm so glad to have them back. Run by the great Marshall Gambino over there. And who am I forgetting? RWA. Oh my God! Right, Renegade Wrestling Alliance with the Rock and Roll Express coming up this month. Holy crap!
Yes.
I'm attempting to book one of their opponents on the show to talk about that. And that's looking very good right now. So look forward to that in the next couple of weeks. So much happening there. And also, if you are on the network or over on the Ringside members, we do have, it is of course available still on his Twitch page, but we have let's call it the final cut of MV Young's barbecue, backyard barbecue. As 3 of us here have experienced how that went and why that is. So,
what are you talking about? It's great.
It was great. Yeah.
Great.
It was fine. It was
Great.
fine.
I'm just hanging off the freaking awning.
My favorite part.
Save.
My favorite part, and we'll just talk about that for a moment here and get out of the ad. But my favorite part is when Marcus, because I'm like, I put a shot on the announcers in case something goes wrong, and it did. So I do this at MMA now. I do this at wrestling. It's something we started over at Warrior, just because sometimes we need to fill time if they're like still pulling a raffle or something right for the pay-per-view. And you see, and I'm set up right behind them. And they're just like, yeah, just a little bit of rain here. It's no big deal. We'll get the matches going. And meanwhile, I am freaking out in the background trying to pull down the tent that's going to blow away over my $20,000 of equipment to run the show. It's my Benny. Somebody put Benny Hill music over that, please. But no, there's literally stuff other than fixing some of the stuff because of this producing in a thunderstorm. You also the bar fight is included that nobody got to see unless you were there in person. So we did film that after we caught up with it at least because they're fighting in the bar. What's that?
Is there a movement for hashtag restore the bar fight cut?
Restore the bar fight cut? Well, that is the bar fight cut. That's what's on there. That's what's on the network. That's one on VOD. But it'll be on YouTube eventually. Yeah, it was literally like they're doing a fight in the bar, and I just looked at both the camera guys. I'm like, go fucking shoot it. Get in there.
And this was like in the middle of the giant storm.
Yes. Meanwhile, I'm still trying to tarp things out and everything. I may have literally had to buy a new laptop because of that day, because it quit on me over the weekend. Yeah, man, the MacBook went over the weekend. It just stopped working. Didn't say water damage, but you never know, But anyways, So, but it was,
above all else, Sorg, that was a really good show.
That was a really good show. When I got to sit down and not be concerned about everything, it was a really good show to enjoy. Emily, you were there with a cookie table.
Yeah.
So, you're bringing the pure Pittsburgh ness of it.
It's a barbecue.
It was a barbecue, exactly.
Cookies at a cookie table. Mm-hmm. It was a joke that we made on Twitter, and then my friend Nicole took it. I won't say took it seriously, but said we should do it. And if it hadn't been for Nicole's encouragement, I probably would have just dropped the joke. But we're like, when she was in, I was like, okay, as long as people don't expect me to actually bake these cookies.
Right. We say they're Giant Eagle or something, weren't they?
I got Giant Eagle. She got a bunch of Aldi ones. It was great. We had wrestlers taking cookies from us. I at certain points when I was worried that enough weren't going, I was circulating the crowd, handing them out. And I got some weird looks, but for the most part, people took a free cookie.
I think there is concern about taking a cookie in the middle of New Ken. I mean,
I promised people that there weren't drugs on them. I was like, I handed one to a baby, so please, there's not.
Here, the baby will take it, so it should be. It's fine, right?
We don't have drugs. Look, a baby's eating one. I wouldn't give drugs to a baby.
You know, I've fallen for that before.
Yeah, but you lived in the Bronx. I'm sure there's
There are babies with way higher BACs than I've ever had in the Bronx, so
there you go.
I mean, to be fair, if anyone had gone to a previous like MVE's, like one of his polyam parties and one of the backyard shows, at one of them there was a very lovely couple from out in like a rural area who grew wild plants and had put those plants into brownies and then were giving the brownies to people with full information. They were not tricking people. So if somebody had been there and experienced that and then had been offered a cookie, I can understand that they might be a little skeptical.
Good.
But
As somebody who had a really bad gathering experience one time, that is good to hear.
oregano and brownies just sounds weird.
Yeah.
olive oil and oregano and brownies.
I was thinking,
chocolate.
I was thinking like mint, maybe a little bit of mint in
Oh,
that,
yeah,
and
yeah.
chocolate. Yeah.
It was definitely not mint.
Listen. So Potter's saying, like, as you're going around, apparently the comment should be, "Trust me, the cookie is good, but not that good." Wink.
Yeah. Giant Eagle, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Decent quality.
Not smiley cookies though.
They were not smiley cookies. Sorry, I don't have that kind of money.
No.
Smiley cookies are getting like a dozen smiley cookies is like $16.
Yeah,
now.
it's ridiculous.
I don't have that kind of.
I get to take. They have a drive-through down, like literally down the hill here. So we've been picking up lately, and they put a. It was actually a fresh smiley cookie. It didn't feel like it had been sitting out for 3 days.
Ooh.
So I'm just like, oh, what is this magic in my mouth?
Fresh from the park and eat Sorg?
Oh God, thank you.
Oh.
Can you tell who's not the Pittsburgher in here?
I just followed.
Wait, Carnegie.
You know, that's not even right. That's not even right.
See,
Yeah,
Carnegie, you're on the line.
tell the people that live there. So, damn it. I really wish.
IndyWrestling.us, Sorg.
I really wish the wrestling show we were working on before COVID panned out, because we were going to put it in Carnegie, and I would have had to say it at least once a month. And
So the Carnage in Carnegie?
yeah, actually that'd be a great name.
Carnage and Carnegie actually does have a better ring when you say it the way that we say Carnegie.
Yeah.
It hurts my soul.
I know it does.
Well,
It hurts my soul.
That's not
But
even the
it's
worst.
right, though.
That's not even the worst of our isms around here. What about North for Sales?
Listen. I'm gonna have my.
Never heard that one.
Yo,
Oh yeah.
right.
Oh yeah.
It's spelled like Versailles, but it's
Yep.
North for Sales.
Yep.
Don't
Well, I mean,
dare try to
granted,
Frenchify it.
Granted, New York is weird too. We have Houston and Houston, so I mean, I get it, but
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of weird.
We have so
at
many.
least that's a strange street.
We have so many French names for streets that we're like, how do you say that? And people on the street disagree. And we're just like, okay.
Can we all agree that Worcester, Massachusetts, spelled the way it's spelled, is not okay and
Yes.
should be either changed or
didn't.
outlawed?
Yeah. Although it gave me one of my favorite memes of the pandemic. It was in Boston. We're telling everyone to get their Borchester shot.
Anyways,
I'm just gonna. Yeah.
this was my long way around to say you have a podcast I want to talk about.
I want to talk about booster shots.
Buster, get your Buster.
Well, we kind of went off the rails, but that's the show. Yin's better-
Again, it's not the wrestling well organized.
and I love Alex in SoCal saying Yin, giving me a Yin's better not mispronounce Carnegie. So,
I
You
do
mean
not
Carnegie.
mispronounce it.
okay, Long Beach.
No, sorry, that's Loon Biatch.
I'm from the Lung Biatch.
That's why they just call it LB.
Do you go off on these kind of tangents on your podcast?
Oh, have you listened?
Yes, I have.
Have you listened to our podcast?
Yes, I have.
Our latest episode. No, this one we stayed fairly on topic. The episode before, which I'm now blanking on what we talked about, it was Tangent City.
Yeah. I mean, that's just the mark of a podcast that does not take itself too seriously.
We
to its own, success.
We definitely do not want to take ourselves absolutely seriously. I'm a big. I follow a local podcast that's produced in Pittsburgh, and I love them. One of my favorite podcasts. And something that they repeat a lot is like being fun is better than knowing things. And like,
I love that. I love that. Can we do that as a T-shirt?
like,
wow.
Once you
That's good.
open your mind to that, it's like, oh my gosh, it's so much better to be fun than to know things. Like, knowing things is great. Like, I'm a librarian. I know lots of things, but I don't care about knowing things. I would rather just have fun and have fun with other people who are having fun. Once you embrace that as a mindset, it's amazing.
That's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
I think that's
One-
our
one
unofficial.
thing-
I think that's our unknown creed of this show the whole time. So actually,
Along the same lines, one thing I've always just described myself as the smartest dumbass you'll ever meet and the dumbest smartass you'll ever meet.
that
at the
checks
same
out.
time.
That checks out. You have about 10 years of proof
Yeah.
of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think my tag on Twitter is still like just a nice dummy. Because like, I don't want anyone to expect anything more than that.
Oh boy, Alex number 2 from SoCal. The only thing to do in Long Island is SoCal, yes,
SoCal.
is stay on the boat in a haunted room on
So cool.
said boat. What in the haunted? Is it haunted?
The haunted boat?
I don't know if that's on purpose or a
Haunted?
typo anymore. The way
Haunted
we're,
room?
I don't know if anybody's
haunted
talking
boat?
right anymore or just fucking with me.
You're in a haunted boat?
I just,
Yeah, that's
like,
what I heard.
I want to know. Tell me more.
Yeah. Can I get
The locals
can I
call it
get
ghost
tickets or
ship.
something? Or...
This one we stayed fairly on topic is a high bar to achieve. Kudos.
Yeah.
I want you guys to try out some of the tribal town names here. Oh no, we got some of those here too. Because remember, we got the French stuff, and then we have the a lot of the.
Well, by the time Sword finally realized how to pronounce Poughkeepsie, I moved.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is true. I had notes on how to say Finn Balor for a while on my monitor.
And
he came in
Finn
for his
Balor
debut.
and Asuka.
Asuka was a big
Yeah.
problem for me because I've read a lot of I've read a lot of comic books with Japanese names, and I definitely were not saying them right in my head for a while.
This is actually okay. I gotta ask this question. How are you dealing with Konosuke Takashita? Takeshita? What's the
Konosuke
pronunciation?
Easy. I asked Matt Carlins.
Because
My favorite thing was we had our Mayhem Mania,
Mm-hmm.
and we had an 8-man New Japan tag team.
And we had Chad saying it every week.
Oh, that was my favorite thing in the world. I almost booked it again after it got canceled just so Chad would have to say all the
And
names
or we
again.
book an expert. When we were doing Lucha Underground, Garza down in El Paso was helping us with the names.
nice.
And I think some of the chants probably too, right? So
I didn't know what Culero meant until we had Garza come on.
yes. So I mean that like we just defer to the experts because we know we do not know,
nothing.
and please help us. So
It's a really good credo. I was we ran a scavenger hunt last week at my library that was like a week long, like several like 100 plus missions for these teams to complete, and one of which was they had to identify the framed portrait that's sitting on my desk. And so I had at least 7 or 8 different teams correctly identify and somewhat correctly pronounce the name Hiromu Takahashi. Because I do have a framed picture of Hiromu Takahashi on my work desk.
as you do.
I referred to it when people asked, previous to actually having a child, I referred to it as, oh, that's my son. But now that I have a biological child, I have to come up with a different term.
Is he the adopted son or
Spiritual cousin.
ah?
We're working on it. We're workshopping it. But they told me I could put any missions on the scavenger hunt, and we needed as many as we could get because the response was so tremendous that I was just like, all right, Hiromu's going on the hunt. They have to identify him. They had to figure out who he is.
Oh man. There's rumor mongering in the chat room right now. I'm not going to get into that, except for the one where the M in WMS stands for multicultural. That is not. I want to say that is not accomplished on a weekly basis, unfortunately. But you know, we try. We try. That's all we can do. But Tulalip.
What?
Tulalip.
Tulalip.
I think. Oh no, she's dropping some names. I'm
Issaquah,
not even
Snow
trying
Bunny,
those. Nope.
Pialup,
Saskatchewan.
I am glad I'm on the Twitch and not on.
On the Facebook.
Oh, you think that's bad? You should look up some cities in Hawaii.
Oh,
You
yeah.
don't know how to pronounce them.
Oh, yeah.
No.
Lots of
Oh, boy.
vowels. Lots of... it's
Well,
happening.
they have a smaller alphabet.
It's like I will go to there, but I will not say the word because I have no idea how to say that.
Anyways, so Great Glitter it is a focus on women's wrestling for the most part, right?
Yeah, for the most
Okay.
part. Well, we since even our earliest days, we span women's wrestling, but we also include like a focus on like non-cis male wrestlers and queer wrestling throughout like the globe. So like whatever doesn't qualify as like two dudes wrestling is something that might be on our map. And honestly, we even talk about dudes too. Like it just depends. But
you start at a certain point, but you can
Exactly.
you wander. You're
Our
not like
focus us
dead.
on women's wrestling and we
Yes.
spiral out from there. But we really have, from the very beginning, tried to dedicate a lot of time and space to just wrestlers of marginalized identities in general.
Mm-hmm. That's good. That's good. And how long have you been doing the show?
We in 2018, in April of 2018, I started working with Harley on what was called Talking Honor, and it was an ROH dedicated podcast for the PW Torch.
Right.
So we were doing weekly coverage on ROH TV, on the pay-per-views, etc.
I think you were still doing it when you were on the show before, at the panel, the Indie Mayhem show panel.
Probably,
Yeah.
and honestly, probably the last time I was here was like right before we switched,
Mm-hmm.
because late in the summer of 2019, in August of 2019, we were just so burned out on Ring of Honor at that state. They had just really decimated whatever progress they had made with their women's division, and women's wrestling was both like a passion of me and Harley. They had
Was that around the Kelly Klein controversies that were happening?
we switched to Grit and Glitter right before that
Okay.
went down. So maybe like a month and a half before all of that went down.
Right, because we were working along with her in Angel Gate at the time when like there was like multiple things going on, unfortunately, with her. So
Yeah, we
I was-
talked to her right before she won the belt the first time. We had an interview with her when we were still talking on her, and then everything went down, and it sucked because I had heard only amazing things about Kelly, and I know that a lot of the stuff that came out intertwined with controversies in and around like Jerry Mercury and all the other stuff that was happening with ROH. It just really blew up, and we were glad to not be covering ROH during that time because we could think about it and talk about it a little bit, but we didn't have to like devote a ton of time to it.
Yeah.
Which
If you were already burnt out and depressed on it by then, that would have really set you off.
right.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I really enjoyed covering ROH for a lot of reasons. We got to like know a bunch of people over there that in various ways. We were reached out to by people behind the scenes there in who were fabulous help, and so no bad blood there. We even did start covering ROH on Great and Glitter when they brought back their women's division and like reintroduced the belt and had the tournament last summer, and things were like looking really promising, and we were really excited, and then kaboom.
The shutdown basically,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. So
yeah, and that's Ring of Honor was always a bright spot for me. I'd been following and going to shows. I think I went with my first show with Mike at the Hammerstein in 2007, so that was kind of a high bar. So and it was always the one where it was like, oh, they're coming to town. I haven't been watching the program because it's a little hard, it's tough to swallow, but I understand why, because it was network television, right? But it was just like, oh, they're coming here. I'm going to have fun. I know that, right? Until the last one that they had, so because it was like really like, there's nobody here, and what's going on, and who's left, and what's happening. I don't get this,
I don't remember exactly the last ROH TV taping I went to. Maybe the one in May of 2019 when we went to Chicago for one of the last dates on the War of the Worlds tour, and it remains the worst wrestling show I've ever been to.
Oof.
Because it was epically long. It dragged insanely.
And it was for TV they were doing?
It was for TV.
Yeah.
So the TV tapings are always long, but this one, I had been to several TV tapings at this point, and this one was long by that standard. It was in this like amphitheater, big sports complex outside of Chicago, and they had not filled it even to a fourth. So it just felt cavernous and empty, and it was depressing in all the worst soul-sucking ways, and then we were just there for hours.
So you attend the 6-episode taping at Ross River Ice Gardens in the winter?
No.
The
Would not have survived
infamous
that.
the infamous night where I think Jim Cornette quit. And they had a Colt Cabana, Steve Corino street fight, which seems to happen every time I had a taping, it seems. Because it happened in Philly when we were filming Montreal Theory, and Steve Corino kept coming in like in several states of wardrobe because of it. So it's really funny to watch. And but that was that. Corino went to the hospital because like it was so cold when he got thrown on the guardrail, it didn't bend and give or any. So like he got really messed up. A future Elias was on the security team, I remember, because we were excited that he was getting a little bit of TV time. Little did we know what was happening, going to happen soon, but at the time, but it was so bad. It was like this is miserable.
I mean, I went to TV tapings that were so much fun. Like my first real wrestling show, like my first like actual like real wrestling show, not just like wrestling that was happened to be happening around where I was. Like my first dedicated wrestling show was an ROH TV taping in April of 2018, and like. It was a blast, and then it only got better from there until it like got really bad.
Yeah.
But we went to Madison Square Garden. We went to that show.
Nice.
Like I cried in the stands when like Kota Ibushi won. Like I like had moments at that show, but I also had like moments where I was like, this is the beginning of a bad period for ROH because that MSG show solidified two things: that New Japan could do no wrong, especially if they had to carry ROH, which they were totally doing in that MSG show. It was the best of times and worst of times. And then we went to the TV taping right after that in Pittsburgh the weekend later, and it was fine and fun, and we benefited from, I don't know if anyone listening or went to any of those TV tapings at Stage AE, but they were really fun.
Oh yeah.
Like we were in great sections every time we got in like the front sections. The people were all really sociable. Like we had a blast. Even if the matches or the cards weren't that amazing, like we had a good time and it kept pace.
Yeah.
But by that May show, I don't know what happened. The wheels came off and it was a death march. We never leave early, and we had to get out of there.
Yeah, I know, and I think I had like front row seats for the last one I was at, and it was like whatever the last one was before COVID. And it was that weird weekend. Remember, like they went from here to Columbus, and the one in Columbus was like, I remember Rev was in that match with Colt Cabana and like the announcer, or Bobby Cruz might have been in the match too. They had a weird 10-man tag where they just like threw everybody at it because I think a lot of talent couldn't make it for some reason. Like I remember talking to somebody that was working there at the time that we worked with, and it's that time where AEW had come up and just take it. They're like, this is the last night. Our light board person is leaving because they just got hired by AEW. You know, like AEW definitely. It is kind of interesting, and it feels like a technology corporate thing where AEW popped up, rated Ring of Honor for talent, and said, this is what we can do when we don't have all the limitations Ring of Honor had, you know, be it Sinclair, be it whoever's in charge, or whatever the issue was with Ring of Honor.
Lack of money.
Or lack of money or funding, right? And we can do something over here, right? So it's weird because it like you can say AEW is kind of responsible for Ring of Honor's downfall, but now they're propping it up as a thing, you know. So it's you know, and I know there's almost no way that was the plan, but it's just how things worked out. Plus COVID all in everything too. So
yeah, I mean COVID. COVID either expedited the inevitable or it created the inevitable. But like I don't know that ROH was going to survive in its former incarnation forever. It definitely was primed to take another form. And AEW was definitely a part of like pushing that evolution along.
And noted Alex Miller out there in Cali saying All In was an ROH show and it was amazing. Yes, it was ROH. I don't want to say promoted, but I think they kind of gave the reins. Like it was a Cody and Buck show, right?
Yeah.
Like everybody kind of pitched in.
The way it was understood, the way it was explained to us by Ian in retrospect, by Ian Riccaboni, who, if you did any Talking Honor like journalism coverage, whether you were a podcast or you wrote, he listened and read everything.
Wow.
And was engaged. And if we asked questions on the podcast, if we were like, we don't understand why this happened, he would message us the day after the podcast released and would be like, oh, hey, so I just want to let you know this is this and this, and that's why the decision was made. And yeah, we don't know, and et cetera. And like, we were blown, like, we're two podunks. Why are you talking to us? Like,
no, Ian's great. I got to meet him
amazing.
at WrestleCon. He's amazing.
Got to meet him a handful of times, and just a incredibly wonderful human being. could not love wrestling more, could not be a better like savant of wrestling, could not be a better like ambassador of wrestling. But the way he explained it to us was that the ROH infrastructure, all the infrastructure in place at the event, like the media team and everything, including down to like commentary and like being able to like put everything together, all of that was like ROH people, all of that was ROH infrastructure. It was just backed by a little bit more personal money from those invested parties like the Bucks and Cody and a couple of other sources, but it was primarily it was an ROH sponsored thing, which made the events after All Out or All In definitely harder for everyone to
because
swallow.
Ring of Honor couldn't sustain that on their own without that buzz, right?
Yeah,
and again, like you say, it is a Ring of Honor show. Like you could not get it anywhere except for on Honor Club, right? And there's a couple. I think like the Madison Square Garden show is on there. I'm sure it's on New Japan too, but it is very interesting to see how that all developed. You know.
Yeah, it was a weird period for ROH because like there were people in and around ROH who were getting to be such big deals and huge stars, but ROH itself was still like. Their people were here, their highlighted stars were here, and ROH was still at this level. So it's like
you're literally outgrowing the company.
Yeah, and then there were people who were like gigantic stars and in ROH and like huge figures for ROH, people like Marty Scurll, who like they just refused to put the belt on. And so it was like they kept missing that opportunity, and I don't want to get into Scurll because etc. But like
same conversation around Shane Taylor. Right?
Shane Taylor's a great example.
Yeah.
They would pull the trigger a little too fast on some people and not fast enough on other guys, and I think it became very frustrating for top talent to continually be in this position where it's like, well, you don't trust us to carry this belt for a long time. And even those who did, like the Bucks, like they were inevitably going to do something, make some kind of move because there's only so much ROH could offer them.
Right. It's just they just didn't. You know, where if you're at W is always like a biggest thing because I feel like you saw that when people came over from WCW, like be it a Jericho or anybody else that came over in that time. It was like WCW knew how to handle their Hulk Hogan's and things and had the machine for that, but they didn't know how to handle somebody that wasn't absolutely on fire. Like the WWE machine knew how to make people right and develop people up.
Well, the WWE machine was also not afraid to cycle in people at the top.
No, absolutely.
WCW had a very regimented
But that was also
you had the NWO and no one was going to top
that was
except for maybe one or two guys.
But that was also in a response because all the top talent left, so they had to by necessity.
No,
but they were also very good at it.
But when they tried to cycle in people, like I know we don't like to talk about Benoit, they tried to cycle him in toward the tail end as like a please don't leave us. Even after they gave him the world title, he left. Like he decided to leave anyway. It was a case of too little, too late for guys like Jericho, guys like Eddie Guerrero, like guys who should have been top, guys like Regal, who should have been top talent, but couldn't because of all the brothering that was going on.
Yeah, and plus the Turner corporate infrastructure makes things ugly too. In Ring of Honor, they had Sinclair to answer to, I'm sure.
They did,
From at least talking to local reps at Sinclair, they seemed very happy with Ring of Honor for a long time.
Well, I mean, the model ROH basically had for under Sinclair was you're going to get this amount of money. It's not going to go way up. It's not going to go way down. This is the amount of money you're going to get, and you make that work. And what they did is they produced a easy syndicated product for Sinclair to be able to put in their markets and sell TV time and sell ad time for. That's all they had to do. So as long as they could produce it on budget, that's all that they had an indefinite ticket as long as they were making some form of ad revenue for
and
Sinclair.
It was cheaper than buying reruns of Friends.
Right.
So that was part of the conversation.
Bargain basement compared to Friends.
Exactly.
Bargain basement compared to almost any other TV.
So there was no room for growth unless they started selling millions of Honor Club subscriptions, basically. So hence the big push. No, it was an interesting era, but I'm glad they have a decent steward of it, even though they don't have their own program. I like what they're doing, integrating with AEW. It makes it feel important. It feels like it honors the history for the most part.
Yeah.
I mean, and even just seeing Ian and Bobby Cruz and Caprice kind of like being integrated now and being on that bigger stage. Like, I'm just happy for people being on a bigger stage.
Oh my
like that.
goodness.
Like, they deserve it. Like, those guys are just rocket, right?
I want good things for all of that team, and I mean, especially Ian. Like, the response around it folding, almost everybody got absorbed or picked up someplace or given opportunities someplace, and that was really, really important. It was clear that there were people in place to look out for those who needed to be able to jump into something else. For Ian, like, I know that he's like got a family to support, and you know, he was working his dream job with ROH. So to go from that to the unknown was probably very, very unnerving. But he didn't have to be in that space for more than a day.
Well, no, he rolled right into New Japan.
Yeah, they did.
So it's great to see.
And then he got to do stuff for like GCW and gets to be a voice in major independents who like could benefit from his experience.
He was on several, at least 2 if not 3 of the special like non-labeled shows at WrestleCon that we did with him.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I walk in, I was like, oh, Ian's on the show. Okay.
Yeah. Like, I was concerned for him just because I wanted to make, I think he's a great person. I want to make sure that some, great people land on their feet. But like, I also shouldn't have been concerned because there's no doubt that like someone like him is going to get hired twice.
This is the best time for good talent in wrestling to be looking for work. It seems.
It's a good market out there right now for a lot of wrestlers. I think it's a good. I think there's opportunities abounding in ways that there hasn't been before. I also think that this is a great time for women wrestlers who've been on the scene for a bit longer to like add, not necessarily replace their in-ring work, but also to add to their resume behind the scenes coaching and instructional work, because we could absolutely use more women trainers on the scene. It will benefit everybody.
Well, it's not all roses, unfortunately, in wrestling. I want to talk about something that's maybe not the greatest, but I think some great has come out of it this weekend. Well, what's up?
Before we get into this, I'm just going to let you know I got to head out.
All right. No problem. Mike, thank you for joining us. Don't worry, we're going to talk about independent wrestling, so you can bounce anyways.
What I learned in wrestling this week, though, is I learned if you have an entrance where the camera cuts every time it says Veni, Vici when you're answering an open challenge, make sure no one sneaks in behind you when you're posing for the camera. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, watch NXT from last week because it was one of the funniest fucking things I've ever seen.
Okay. I'll look that up on my Peacock. Thank you, Mad Mike. We'll see you next week.
Have a good rest of the show, guys.
We'll see you Monday, and I'm sure we'll be hopefully gushing over Raw again.
Hopefully.
or your Optimus Prime Lego build. But anyways, like I said, we're going to talk about a few more things. But in the meantime, with our guest Emily Fear of the Grit and Glitter podcast. That I think I almost made your podcast X-rated there. I apologize.
That's on our Patreon.
That's a Patreon, okay.
That's Patreon only.
But also I want to give a shout out, and I'm sorry you rushed in right at the beginning. I didn't get to offer you, but we have some in the back. You can grab some on break if you want or afterwards. So you're not going home hungry. But our good friends at Slice on Broadway do help feed our guests that come here into the studio, New York City style. Yins are made right up the street here in Beachview. We're literally on the other side of the tracks and up the street. Also in Carnegie, he's not around anymore. East End in the North Hills. Carnegie.
I can't imagine. So the major library system in Pittsburgh is the Carnegie Library of Pittsburgh.
Yes.
So imagine if everybody working there had to say Carnegie.
Right. But also understanding Mike comes from the city of Carnegie Deli and Carnegie Hall. I get it.
That's great.
I understand.
That's great.
But we can't ask him how to say it.
You know how there are women named Tara and there are women named Tara and they're spelled identically, but so words are pronounced differently for different folks.
Exactly.
It's all legit.
Anyways, Slice on Broadway. You can ask him how they say it down there in Carnegie as well. Get on the phone. Get on the website. Tweet them, PGH_Slays, and say, how do you pronounce Carnegie? There you go. That's your assignment.
Don't kick the door down. Just open it.
We're not kicking the door down. Be nice to them. Don't put your foot on the door. I don't know where this came. This is Chad's fault, wasn't it?
It's probably Chad's fault.
It says kick the door down and give me your pepperoni pizza. That's not nice. They're nice people in there, okay?
Look, the only time you can kick down the door is if you want the pizza di broccolini.
What?
That's the only way.
Okay.
Which is actually really good pizza, by the way.
Okay, wow, there you go. The Riz bomb on the suggestion. Thank you them for supporting the show for over a decade, supporting Pittsburgh podcasting with the perfect pepperoni pizza. We'll be right back in just about a minute or so after this.
Legendary podcast.
Watch out on the TV network on Roku.
Grind City. And you know this, man.
You know what I'm saying? It's like right place, right time, out of nowhere.
So what you saying?
Former tag team partner coming to save.
Tony Johnson, we saw him battle Edric earlier, but this is a 2-on-1 mugging.
We are back, Wrestling Mayhem show. We have the Riz is with us.
I am back. I'm here.
Dropping great.
I've never left.
No, he didn't. Dropping great Khali emoticons over on the Twitch chat room on IndyWrestling.us. Thank you for that. I just still love that. That's a thing. I did make emoticons. I have at least one Ziggy GIF emoticon I made.
That's right.
I think it's on the Twitch. If you I still don't understand. If you subscribe over there, I think, and I think if you're a certain, there it is in the chat. It doesn't move on mine because I'm using a different chat thing, but it's that punch thing from when I made that like last time she was supposed to be on, right? And I think there's like a dreidel spinning behind her or something. What was it? We're trying to get her on for a Hanukkah episode, but anyways,
it's $5 to subscribe. So subscribe to
there you go.
US on the Twitch.
Yes, and you will get those emoticons, and you will get to see all of Pittsburgh wrestling, basically monthly as they come out.
Even Wrestling Mayhem Show has one.
Wrestling, what's that?
The Wrestling Mayhem Show.
Oh yeah, I just put a bunch of logos in there. So that was I was like, well, I just wrote the logos of all the promotions we put in here, and and then I ran out of slots. So it is what it is. Emily Fear is still with us of the Grit and Glitter podcast. I said it right this time.
Nailed it.
So, it's exciting. We're talking about a lot of good in wrestling. But of course, there was a big news item I want to talk about because this is something we actually talked about on the show. We had Zeke Mercer on, and they were a part of this show. And I got a message like a week before or 2 weeks before because they were looking for a video producer. Of course, I was already booked in the Poconos, unfortunately. Fortunately, I don't know, we'll see. And it looked like a great card. Again, it was. I will say I don't want to say I had my doubts or anything, but I had my questions because it was called Wrestle Queerdom, and it was happening in New Hampshire, and which that did not connect the dots in my head. But I'm like, oh, okay, well, maybe it's something that happened in New Hampshire, if not, that I don't know about. And then we started hearing about. I started noticing on my way back from my own road trip on Sunday. That something might have been amiss, as I was hearing about talent being stranded. Of course, I was worried about our friend Zeke being up there, but it turned out he was on his way back. I saw Kid Bandit was involved, trying to help out some of the stranded talent up there, and that was a whole thing. There was a Wrestling Inc. even collected a lot of the information about what was going on there as well. Emily, I know you were talking about this on Twitter a lot. You were one of the sources trying to figure out what was going on. So even to the point where I'm like, I'm halfway across the state, maybe I can help somebody.
Yeah.
So I started kind of poking a little bit to see if there was a thing I could do. Not that I don't know, we could have trapped into the roof, I guess, but so we kind of had some equipment with us. But still, so from what you're saying, I think you followed this probably a little closer than I did. Can you give us kind of like the 100-foot view of what probably happened here?
Sure, I can give you kind of the rundown, and I'm going to give a lot of credit to Brian Bell of the LGBTQ in the Ring podcast, because Brian was on our show, that our episode of Great and Glitter that was released this morning. Brian was on our show on Sunday. Brian does an amazing coverage of everything in wrestling that has anything to do with like queer wrestling, queer wrestlers, queer talent, etc. And they had Sally on their show.
And Sally was the promoter.
Yes.
Okay.
So Sally is a wrestling fan and ran a Twitter account called Transgraps. Transgraps was doing kind of what Tiger Driver did with, but specifically with trans wrestlers, queer wrestlers, and organized like streams of watching the various talent. Put together a Discord server that became a very popular place for queer wrestling fans and even queer wrestling talent to congregate and discuss and share matches, etc. And sometime late last year, maybe early this year, Transgraps announced that they were going to do their first show, and that was going to be Wrestle Queerdom, taking place in August of this year in New Hampshire. So at first, this seemed really promising, really exciting to have like what was going to be a very like queer-fronted, trans-fronted show. We've had he's going on his 5th Big Gay Brunch. There's been a handful or maybe a dozen or more either promotions that are kind of more dedicated to queer talent or specific shows that have been geared towards queer talent. But this was trans forward, which I think is still such a new thing in wrestling that was exciting to have something that was going to be that forward
and becoming something bigger. Obviously Nyla over the last few years, and Giselle Shaw from Impact Wrestling coming out as well.
Yes.
Has been incredible for that movement.
And then talent announcements for Wrestle Queerdom started coming out, and it was like ridiculous, like Venny from Japan, Candy Lee from New Zealand, Giselle Shaw got announced, Sunny Kiss got announced. There were so many names popping up on this roster. You had you had rising and increasingly in-demand talent from the independents to people who are like signed with major companies who still can contract out to independents. So it was good, but it was too good to be true in my mind for two very good reasons, and something that probably like anyone who's been, I'm a mark. I'm just a mark. I'm just like I'm just a dummy, right? Like I'm a dummy who likes wrestling. But I know enough people, and I talk to enough people, and I pay enough attention, and I read wrestling history enough to know that the first question in my mind isn't like are they going to sell enough tickets? Because probably not in New Hampshire. They'll sell a decent amount.
And what did they stream on? Were they a pay-per-view? Were they on IWTV? Or
they streamed on an app called Looped, Looped. So you had to buy the pay-per-view through Looped. It's I guess a kind of a newer service, and I was skeptical of that. But Maria Kanellis and Bobby Cruise's new promotion, Women's Wrestling Army, they're streaming through Brand Army, which I had also never heard of. So I think people are just kind of experimenting with platforms.
They're also involved with Pro Wrestling TV as well. So
yes.
so I don't know if it's just a non-exclusive thing, but I know they're on there as well.
I
But
think it's I think it's a shared deal now, but I think
Yeah.
on Brand Army you get because with Brand Army it's like a subscription type thing, you get things first.
yeah,
With Looped, I'm guessing it was just the best the best percentage deal that Sally who was
is it
organizing
this
event.
Looped the virtual venue?
Yes.
Okay, because
Yeah.
it looks like a video chat situation.
It kind of looks like a what's the cameo type thing.
Okay.
But you can do like live performances through there.
Okay.
So things started getting a little sketchy. Like in about a month ago, there was your typical social media drama of people like pushing up against trans grapses like desire to speak for the community. There were wrestlers and fans alike who were saying like, you don't speak for all of us. Like that's pretty like arrogant to assume that like your show is the like voice of the community, etc. But there was still, largely a mobilized support for it because people wanted to see this and fans were excited for it, especially queer wrestling fans.
It was a net positive.
Yeah, I mean, so far so good, except no one was really asking the question that everyone probably should have been asking, which is, where is the money coming from?
Yeah.
And I've often said I've been working around in wrestling since 2008. I still do not know how the math works on a regular show, not and let alone a show that has the names, right?
The names,
so,
flights.
Yes.
Anytime you have even a single wrestler on your card that is doing an international flight, and if Candy Lee wasn't already still local, if she wasn't already still stateside, if she had to fly in from New Zealand, then we're talking at least 2 international flights there and back. But like even if you have
that's more than a wrestling show.
That's more than a
Typically.
wrestling show.
Yes.
So it started to become one of those things where like in the weeks leading up, like I don't know enough people who are asking that question outwardly, but a lot of people in the like days before the event were starting to like privately and discreetly say, I don't know what's going on. Like, I don't know how this is going to happen. So it kind of snowballed from there. The card got bigger, more talent got booked, more matches got announced. There was dates and location and ticket sales.
Didn't they get delayed? Weren't they supposed to be earlier or something?
I'm not actually sure about that.
Okay.
Maybe, but I don't know.
I don't know. Some reason that popped in my head that there might have been something like
there's
that.
so much insanity to this story that is the least interesting thing, right?
Yeah, right.
Like we can go. Like, I was listening. I'm like, it's like when you're younger and you have like, you can just grab all these pieces of candy. Like you can do this and this and this and this. But now that you're older, you're like, I can't afford any of this.
Yeah.
What the? How? What? Like Candy Lee and people from Japan and it's like, that's too much. Like that's way too much for a startup for something like this.
Yeah, and I mean, most of these wrestlers were coming from out of town. So that meant not just booking fees, but hopefully transportation coverage as well, if not also some form of accommodation.
Yeah.
And we're not talking about we're not talking about even a money mark. We're talking about just a very enthusiastic and engaged trans wrestling fan who had never run a show before, never run any kind of promotion, had no connections to the wrestling industry, was just a really avid fan who had made a community online, which is cool and awesome, but that doesn't
She
make
should have been looped in with somebody who was a promoter to help them not make the greenest of mistakes, right?
Or use your support base and whatever little money that you have and sponsor a match through another promotion or sponsor the wrestlers that you want to see out there. Like there are a billion different ways to do this without taking on this enterprise yourself. And okay, if you want to do a wrestling show, first and foremost, no international talent, no one who requires flights. Don't require a single flight person on your show. For your first show, keep it as local as you ostensibly can. Regional, fine. Also, like you said, like coordinate with people who know what they're doing.
Yeah.
We have someone on our correspondent team who runs CFU, Combat Fights Unlimited. And when he did his first show, it was very much the kind of thing where he had the ideas, he had the booking, he had the booking ideas, he had enough understanding of it to be able to put together the idea competently and to start reaching out to talent and do aspects of that. However, he was also smart enough to know that he didn't know anything about certain other aspects of it, from production to etc. So he had that covered with all the partners he worked with.
Well, and on the outside looking at Enjoy Wrestling, like they came out of the gate, like they were partnered with, or they have a connection with Fest, who has been doing this for a while in a certain way. And I always say I consider Enjoy the like Pittsburgh Fest wrestling. And I don't know the complete connection there or anything, and how much that's true, but like as I see it, and then like that's how a company like that came out of the gate strong, and it's like literally changing the game here in town with stuff.
Yeah, I mean, and I think it's I know that there's been a lot of people coming out now of saying like, well, this is why Mark shouldn't run a wrestling show. I mean, no, that's not actually the lesson we need to learn here.
No. Yeah.
The lesson we need to learn here is that, first of all, individuals, one person shouldn't run a wrestling show. It should be a team.
Yes.
Also, money.
Yes.
You just need money. You know what you don't have? When you have a lot of money, you don't have problems because you can throw money at it.
There's two things I have heard repeatedly that I take to heart when considering, as we do float the idea of a wrestling wrestling show, but the idea of you have to have all the money to pay for the show up front regardless, right? And also don't get in the wrestling business. What was it? What was it? The easiest way to lose money is to start a wrestling company. Yeah. So like nobody's getting rich off this stuff. So
no.
See Wrestlelicious.
Yes, exactly.
Oh my God, Wrestlelicious. I mentioned that we had done a spotlight episode about Mercedes Martinez, and I had never heard of Wrestlelicious. And then we delved into Mercedes Martinez's. So Mercedes Martinez has always performed as Mercedes Martinez, always, in every promotion, every iteration, in 22 years, except for in Wrestlelicious.
Where was she there?
She was Maria Toro.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Oh boy. What
yep.
Just hit
it was a bullfighter gimmick, and it's every bit as bad as you would assume it is.
You know how much we loved wrestling. We did our own Wrestlelicious raps on the show.
Wrestlelicious is the type of terrible that I can get behind.
I know. Right?
I mean, like I have a guilty pleasure for WoW, so like I'm not judging anybody.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the situation over the weekend started snowballing really on Friday when it was just a lot of collision of things. Bad optics, Transcraps, aka Sally, was tweeting out about Venny staying in their home, and that was weird because not that like people who promote don't have talent stay with them, like that happens all the time in the independents.
No.
And as long as everyone's consenting and cool with it, it's fine. But like, you don't necessarily have the promoter out there like tweeting about it and talking about watching them sleep.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's kind of creepy.
Little off, and then into Saturday, communication really broke down, and the word was, I have this on a verified source that I won't reveal just to protect everybody involved, but the ring wasn't paid for. The ring rental wasn't paid for. So when the ring showed up, they had to scramble to get the money, which mainly came from Sally's mother, God bless her, who was footing the bill for most of this. The ring hadn't been paid, so before it could get set up, they had to pay it. They had to pay the rental fee.
Yeah.
And Sally didn't have a ring crew, so the people who transported it had to help set it up. Yeah.
Wow.
It came out that the major funding sources for this, there were some sponsorships. A couple of like podcasts and a couple of other like groups had sponsored here and there. There were ticket sales, but that money isn't going to be available to you right at the gate.
No.
That takes time for Eventbrite to give you that
And
money.
Same with pay-per-view too.
Right. You're not
sometimes it's a 3 month. Like, it's other services. It's been like a 3 month window for some people. So
you can't take unless you are only charging at the door. The door money does not count. The ticket money does not count until way later. So the vast majority of the funding was coming from, I believe it was a $5,000 like bank loan that Sally's mother had taken out to fund this show.
Wow.
Which honestly, $5,000 is a lot, but I don't think it would even have covered everything.
No.
So by the end of Saturday, after the show had actually gone on, and the show did go on, that was the big question going into Saturday: is this going to actually happen? Is this going to happen? things kept getting shifted. Eddie McQueen had been brought on to do a roast of Candy Lee, and then they ditched that for various reasons or time reasons, and put Eddie on commentary. Both people on commentary to start with had maybe a half an hour of warning that they were going to be on commentary, which led to some issues. They were replaced after intermission by other people who did their best.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of shifting of the card here and there, and it just the show itself was surprisingly competent. The team that did do the production work and actually like for the streaming was decent, and it looked okay. Like it looked okay.
Yeah, shots I looked great.
Yeah, it looked way better than I would have expected.
Right.
But it at the end of the night, like by Sunday morning, it was clear that most of the wrestlers were not either getting their full payment or any payment, and they couldn't get a hold of this so-called promoter, and they were scrambling to figure out how people were going to get home. And that's probably where you picked it up on Sunday, with people just stuck in New Hampshire. I mean, you had cars of wrestlers who didn't have enough money to buy the gas to get back where they needed to go.
Yeah.
And like these were people who had like stuck their neck out to like help and make this show happen. The only reason that Wrestle Queerdom actually happened on Saturday is because the wrestlers made it happen. And that's amazing and so inspiring, except it's not inspiring because it sucks. They shouldn't have had to do that. Like, I know it's cool when people rally to support through like extraordinary circumstances, but this wasn't an extraordinary circumstance. This was, as Shirley Joe on Twitter pointed out, this is very much business as usual in the wrestling industry. Like when this stuff happens, people hash it out all over again, but this just happens in wrestling all the time. People don't get paid. Promoters stiff people. Like people run
Balls
one
Mahoney.
show.
Balls Mahoney comes to your house. Famously. So, I think this was happening, and I don't know if it was Dash Bennett's comment that I was at, but I think I responded or quote tweeted somebody that says we do miss Balls Mahoney. We need a Balls Mahoney again for promoters or something. So, but no, he's not wrong. I mean, there's been the rash of bad promoters just in the Pittsburgh area too. And Dash talked about one in particular that I know we hear about a lot. But a lot of times they don't fail on such a large stage, and then also what was attempting to be accomplished with this show, it adds a different air to it, unfortunately.
Yeah, people wanted it to succeed.
Yeah.
And the wrestlers themselves wanted it to succeed so badly that they made it succeed despite everything that the promoter did to not help that along.
Yeah. And there's a community that's, I hate to say used to adversity, but, that's why I think everybody came together so strongly on this to make sure it happened.
Sure, and I think it's one of the reasons why they're so protective over each other, and why,
Absolutely.
in the fallout of all this on Sunday, you had people like Aiden Von England and Kid Bandit and other wrestlers who weren't even involved in the show, like Dark Sheik and Billy Dixon, sending out the word on Twitter, like, if you are stuck, if you are talent on the show and you're stuck, it doesn't matter if I know you, like, reach out, we will help you. There were people from all over chipping in. There's this protective impulse to help the community out, even when it shouldn't be the community's role to bail out someone whose job it was to just simply do what they had promised their talent to do. It's really simple. It's just about money. And there's going to be dialogue about this for a long time, and people are going to pick it apart and use this as an example as why, people shouldn't do this and people shouldn't do that. But honestly, the lesson I'm learning here is you just have to have a huge amount of money handy for something like this. Like you do. And you have to be smart enough to know that you don't know anything, and make sure that you're working with people who know more than you do. That's the case for anything. That's not just wrestling. That's like any creative endeavor. Don't do things in isolation.
Any business endeavor, right? So as a person that's been doing their own business for well over a decade, I know I don't know everything, and I've tripped over myself several times. Several times.
Yeah, and the worst part about it, to me, honestly, the thing that would infuriate me if I was a person who had been massively screwed over by this, I feel like I have no right to any kind of indignation because I didn't lose anything in this. But if I had been involved in this directly, my biggest issue right now would have been the lack of accountability from this person who has gone radio silence. And that's just it. That's not fair. Like we weren't accountable enough to take care of what you promised to take care of. And now you are not being accountable enough to own up to the fact that you didn't do that. Like you have to eat this shit now. You do. Like you laid it, you got to eat it. And it sucks, but like this is on you. This is the mess you created, and it's up to you to not. You can't fix it really because other people fixed it for you, but it's up to you to own up to it. And please promise us never to run a show again.
Right? Yeah. No. So. No, it's been interesting. It sounds like everybody's been taken care of, though. Again, I know Kid Bandit was very big in helping connect people and help people out there. And there was a lot of people that kind of sprung up from things. So,
yeah.
I mean, again, you know, so that's good to see. Nothing bad happened to anybody, you know, trying to get home or anything.
I keep thinking, like, what would have happened if there had been an injury on the show?
Right. I don't know. What is the athletic commission like in North New Hampshire?
I think it's a lot more loosey-goosey than it is here in Pennsylvania because, like, in Pennsylvania, you can't even look at a ring unless you've got a doctor on the way.
I know. Well, you know how many shows I've been? It was like, oh, we're going to delay 50 minutes. Why? The doctor didn't make it yet. I was like, oh, jeez. You know? So, you know, it's to that extent, you know. Yeah, you know, and it's wild when we go to like Detroit, where it's like you're doing what with light tubes, you know? So it was like, excuse me.
We've got a school nurse in the background. It's fine.
Yeah. I'm just like, I need
to put it on a printer, and it's like we're gonna surround the printer in light tubes.
Yeah.
And,
Oh
you
man,
know, thumbtacks. Don't worry, it's gonna be fine.
Like I saw stuff I've never seen before, and I've been to how many Gathering of the Juggalos? So shit, that show. Oh my god. Anyways, I'm sorry, I'm having flashbacks. Yeah. So no. So I'm hoping it's a teachable lesson for everybody, and for anybody out there thinking about their own wrestling show. There's a reason we haven't pulled a trigger on that. So, like I've often said, and I've joked to like some people around me in the industry. I was like, you know, if I decide to run my show, I'm calling you, right? You know, like people have done this for 20 years. Sword. Yeah, so Sword Stock 22.
I find things like this really good reminders of why I don't want to do anything beyond what I do.
Same here. Just like, I think I'm at the edge of this. I don't want to take a bump in the ring, and I don't think I want to be responsible for the money for the show.
Right.
I don't think that's the works for me.
There is a part of me that wants to do like one day of training just to like remind myself, like, no, you
got to take the bump, right?
You're too old.
Like, have you ever taken a bump, like a proper bump?
No, not a proper bump.
Oh, it saved my life knowing how to do it. So, but it also reminds me to not. I'm not like, man, I wish I could be in there. It's like, oh no, I don't. No. I'm good right here, ringside. I'm cool.
You got in the ring one time.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all.
Oh wait, when we did the commercial, right?
When we did the commercial.
That was your only time in a wrestling ring?
I didn't do any bumps. There was wrestlers surrounding me.
At least Matt rolled around in the ring for that one thing. Yeah.
Stay there, because I don't belong in there.
You're just like, this is not my world. Like, so, yes.
Like, I barely see over the ropes, so you know, I'm just here on the outside looking in. And just watching the TV, watching the show.
Yes. I would, I'm glad that we can give Grizz the experience to be close enough to know not to get closer.
Yeah, it's like I'm barely doing this right now.
And this has been a decade project. So
yeah, 100%.
Talking on the internet, and at least one awkward conversation with Dalton Castle and RJ City.
Wait, together?
Oh,
together.
Yes. Oh, we'll bring this up.
That's awkward.
I'm going to bring you a video later of this situation.
Oh, wow.
I sent Riz to do interviews at IWC one time. He talked to those two. Shane Taylor was doing something goofy with his shoes off, and the promoter told me to take it down. You interviewed Pete Dunne and Mandrews before anybody knew who they were, right? I'm like, we're just like, who are these kids with all the pimples from the UK that are hanging out here?
Your friend Bobby Fish.
Well, Bobby Fish, of course. Yeah, you had quite a time there, and he just absolutely got roasted by Dalton and RJ, and basically what I consider the pilot to AEW.
Pretty much.
So we'll share the video with you afterwards, Emily. It's quite a sight.
I need to see this.
And then we find out that Riz has the same birthday as RJ.
Oh.
And they're good Twitter friends. And then every time I talk to RJ about and bring up Riz, and he's like, I feel so bad for that kid, what we did to him.
He then called me a potato.
Then he called you a potato. Yeah, he did. Yes. Easiest interviews. I just have to say hi, RJ, and he takes it from there. So, anyways. Look at the time. It's almost pumpkin time, so let's wrap things up. Chat room.
Pumpkin time?
Sorry, that's what I say on AEW because the one guy has to leave like at 8 o'clock on the dot because he's got a kid to take care of, and put to bed and stuff. So I just call it pumpkin time. But anyways, it's been a long day with a lot of activity and at least one instance of the police. Okay, so. Chat room, please let me know, what did you learn from wrestling this week? And we'll go around the horn here. Riz, let's start with you.
I learned that in this new finangled world of wrestling, to never walk in mid wrestling show, because you have no idea what's going on.
Wait, are you talking about in person or?
Oh, anywhere, but I'm mainly talking about Raw.
Okay.
Because I was working, and after work I came in and saw the weird interview with Bailey and then the people in the background coming rushing.
The car crash and everything we were going about outside. We were picking apart the truck. Yes.
And it was like just one of those things where I'm like, what the hell? What's going on? And then it abruptly stops. And then they turn to AJ Styles walking.
Yes.
It's like I felt like I was watching Lost, and I have no idea what's going on. Like me watching Lost.
So we talked about this a lot last night. There were these Easter egg things happening in the background. Like they're interviewing Kevin Owens after he beat up and sent Ezekiel to the hospital. And there's Dewdrop and Nikki Ash in the background, and a car has been crashed into the median, and there's like security and police around them, and they're like pointing and whatever in the background, and nobody is addressing this. And then about an hour later, we had a thing backstage with what was it? You said it was Bailey and the crew, right? Like Bailey, Dakota,
and
Io.
And the crew,
and you see the said car from a different angle being pulled on a flatbed, and then you see a row of police run by them, and then they do a moving thing, and here's AJ coming to the ring, kind of thing, and like a crossover kind of thing, like artistically, documentary filmmaking style. And then at the end of the night, you get Dexter Lumis, who we barely see on television and is barely referenced, that is ringside after the match, and AJ Styles kind of looks over at him, and then he gets drug away by police. And no other reference to this, other than they put better clips online. And it is...
And you know what? I want to point out something.
Yes.
Putting better clips on there kind of ruined it for me.
It ruined it for you, like the Dexter stuff. They do anything with the car.
I want the image of him far away.
Yes.
For some reason, I want that image more, like far away and like blurry.
Yes.
I don't want the perfect image of Dexter Lumis.
Okay, I got you there. So to the point where, because we had Matt on, he was with Wrestling Inc. and he was talking about how I love that, like, even, and I got these in the newsletter this morning, where and let me switch this over here. Like literally the top headlines for Raw last night were WWE viewers puzzled by backstage parking lot mystery. Parking lot mystery leads to surprise return on WWE RAW. Just like, what?
Parking lot mystery.
Yes. So, because it was, and if you weren't paying enough attention, you were just like, I just happened to look up and they're doing an interview, and I'm just like, outside in the background. Like, it's something you easily could have missed if you're just glossing over Raw, like I typically do, because I'm usually doing work while I'm watching Raw, or also trying to watch AEW, right?
Wait, so somebody was writing this. Somebody was like, okay, so we're going to have these segments, and then in the background, there's going to be a car crash and like unidentified issues going on with like the police and the cars, and we're going to randomly have some wrestlers there too.
Yeah, basically, yes.
I kind of dig that.
Right?
Yeah, right.
That's the kind of like cracked out shit that I'm like, okay, I'm
like
down
Dexter. Yeah, Dexter's not going to be the big name. He was a mid-carder in NXT, mid-carder in Impact, as well. But this is perfect the way to introduce the Raw WWE fans out there to who the hell Dexter Lumis is, because it doesn't really do anything. But the guy who caused a car crash only to get ringside, only to get pulled away by cops.
Well, it's like when they brought back Karrion Kross last week. They there's not much pedigree of him on the main program. He was on Raw and he looked like a Spartan, right? And you bring him in and do the full entrance thing and have him come out and take out Drew and put a freaking hourglass out for Roman. I'm like, I don't know who the hell this guy as a typical SmackDown watcher, but you got my attention. Right? I don't need to know who the hell this guy is, other than this guy kicked ass over here and was an NXT champion, and now he's here and he's gunning for a moment, and he's got this cool entrance and a hot chick. You know, it's just like that's all you need to know for the SmackDown audience to be like,
what more do I need to know about anybody in life?
Exactly, right? Like that is wrestling arithmetic. Okay, so,
cool entrance, hot chick.
Yes. Done, especially for the like Fox network television. So like you're not. It's great, and it's got us interested, and it's got us bringing us back in the fold, and it's like, okay, now this is what I've been missing.
We're really learning in this like iteration of WWE right now. Like, we're really learning who Triple H is the most passionate about from his NXT. Because think about the people he's brought back are not necessarily even the people that like the fans would have been like, bring back, but like he's bringing back the people he saw potential in. He knew he could build into mega stars, and now it's his chance to do so and do so on the main roster where he believes that they can like thrive. Absolutely. So you've got Dakota back. You've got, I mean, EO is a no-brainer, but like you have people like Dexter Lumis who like Triple H sees something in, and just knowing that he believes him in that much, I'm like, okay, I'm curious what you're seeing here. I'm buying in because I'm down for what your passion here is. Like, you've got a plan. Clearly, you've got to have a plan.
Absolutely.
And it might bring in like Indy Hartwell. Somebody like Indy Hartwell coming back in.
Yeah, are they still kayfabe married?
Well, I think they had a weird.
Did they get married? Did the marriage happen? I thought they had.
The marriage
happened. He disappeared. They partially referenced it in a weird, awkward segment with whoever her partner's significant other was or something, and then like they moved on, right? And they're just like, wait, we never talked about it again. You know, true WWE fashion. You know, which is a shame because that was such a. It was the last vestige of that NXT Black and Gold era, he spoke. It was the series finale of NXT Black and Gold. It really was.
Again, I follow WWE like 0.5%, but even I was all in for Index. So I really hope that those kids can work it out.
She's the most excited I've been when I finally got to download all the expansion packs for 2K. I'm like, Indy Hartwell's in this. This game's good again.
She's so great.
Emily, what did you learn from wrestling this week?
Well, I already talked ad nauseum about Wrestle Queerdom, so I'm not going to talk about the things we learned from that because we actually already knew a lot of those things.
Yeah. It just kind of reiterated.
So I'll say something that I learned in wrestling, and I probably already knew this too, but it just got reaffirmed 10 times over this week, is nobody is having as much fun at their job right now. Nobody is like living their dreams right now more than William Regal is on AEW television. Because every time you hear the man on commentary, he is more unhinged and having a blast than ever. I think we all...
And he's hanging with his friends.
He's hanging with his
Taz and
friends.
JR. And
He's hanging with his friends. He's having really fun times on commentary, just getting to be this weird blend of, like, you know, hyper serious combat club, like, leader slash, like horny elder statesman, because he's like making these like fun like passes at Excalibur. I think we all like saw the Rampage. I don't know if you guys
what
saw
does he
this.
call him? Man in the Mask.
He says, "Man in the Mask, you're such a marshmallow. Yum yum yum." And it gets repeated too. I think he repeated it again. Like he repeated some form of that, like later on, either that night or like in Battle of the Belts or something. I like.
What?
Nobody's having more fun right now.
You got to think the man is also not as responsible for as much as he was, so he's probably like looser.
He's
you
like
know?
getting to do this great thing where he plays tough and hard, but like you could tell he's lighter. You could tell he'll 1,000-pound weight is off his shoulders.
He'll react to a curse from Danhausen, right?
It's great. It's great.
I would only counter, because you talk about the person who's living out their dream and having the most fun in wrestling. Because I was reacquainted with Pat McAfee watching SmackDown this week.
Okay.
And I'm sorry. And we talked about it last night, and I apologize for the repeat. But watching him with the way overdone nutshot telestrator and everything during that first match with Baron versus Ricochet, and then signing the football and kicking in the audience, you know, kind of stuff. Like, and seeing him at SummerSlam, seeing him in his match in person at Mania. I'm like, no, like that guy is just all of us. You know?
Wait, I want to ask something real quick. Did you say he has a telestrator now?
Oh yeah, he telestrated the nut shot from SummerSlam repeatedly for like 2 minutes. It was obscene. It was juvenile. Yeah, he just like this, and then he drew. I think he drew a little penis too, as much as he could again on network television. But it was just like, this is like he is every internal juvenile meathead one of us watching wrestling, you know, and it works so well for him.
We have such a soft spot for him because we are a Mountaineer household. So, like, when he made his introduction into wrestling, I mean, you know, footballers, this is something that happens, but, like, you don't give it any kind of attention, really, or weight to it until it, like, deserves it. So, like, but the fact that, like, he's done himself really well, he's a good representative for the type of like wrestling fan that you can engage with in the light way. Like, I got a really big soft spot for Pat McAfee. Like, dude, you're right. He's like clearly having a blast.
Yes.
Getting to do the job of his dreams. Plus, like, you know, we're Mountaineers for life. So like we're
he's
on
from
board
Plum.
with McAfee.
Hearing Corey Graves doing the digs on him about like Pittsburgh doesn't even reclaim him or something, you know, when SummerSlam during his match was you know, always fun. You know, just like I love when Elias was coming up and Corey's on commentary and saying Elias was down on Carson Street playing Nickelback or something, you know. was just like what? You know, but it's always great to see that representation on there. And now we got 2 shows with Pittsburgh representation, more or less.
It's fantastic.
On commentary, which is fun. Man, and these supposed rumors or whatever speculations we're putting in the air on Twitter of a Corey Graves and Pat McAfee match happening down the road.
Oh,
yes, and
geez.
please. So,
I mean, they are coming in. I mean, Raw is coming in.
They
a couple
are.
weeks.
I'm not. You know, I might have to change my flight because I'm coming in late. And now the more I'm like, man, maybe I don't want to miss that show. Maybe I can come back from Florida earlier that day. So
It's so weird on Mondays to like see the Twitter chat about Raw and it not be just this endless like complaint fest.
Yes.
Because every Monday I would read it and I'd be like, why are you guys watching Raw? This is clearly making you miserable. And now for the past 2 weeks it's been like, oh my goodness, like it's sunshine and rainbows, and it's like, oh hell yeah,
There's no way this lasts. There's no way this lasts this good, right?
I mean, has there been a real clearinghouse of like Vince's guys? Because until that happens, I'm not gonna get invested.
Bruce Pritchard has been demoted. Laurinaitis is out the door now. So
Kevin Dunn is.
What's about the Dunn?
Dunn.
Kevin Dunn is like MIA right now.
So the last word I heard on Dunn, and I'm pretty sure I read this from a reputable source. Dunn there's no room to replace him because they let go of the replacement they were training during the cuts, and they're not coming back because of circumstances. So we're stuck with him. Right, is basically is nobody else, because I mean, for your faults of Kevin Dunn, there are not a lot of people, I would imagine, that can produce consistently the level of a WWE RAW or SmackDown, a WWE show, because as we've stated before, WWE shows are, aside from maybe NFL Sunday Night Football, the best consistent weekly, multiple days a week live production on television.
Yeah, I mean, if there's no one to fill that role, that doesn't leave you many options.
But also, what if something happens to Kevin Dunn, like just in life, right? Like, what do you do?
I mean,
so
there's going to be continued stuff coming out, right?
Yes,
you don't know how long.
But there's that too. Did we lose him before that? Right. There's a headline on Wrestling Inc. about another $5 million on count of four, apparently with Vince, I guess. So we're not done with this.
It's such a wonderful illustration of the scale of wrestling, like major company versus like tiny nothing like promotion out of in New Hampshire, because you've got wrestlers who are like, I didn't get my $200 booking fee and I can't get home, versus like there's $5 million missing from WWE and no one noticed.
Yeah, exactly. And SEC is involved and all this other stuff, and I'm just waiting for other things to get linked politically at this rate, with everything else going on right now, because who knows, there's a lot of stuff out there. So it is wild.
Walt Disney's going to be just fine with that, Sorg.
Does Disney? Oh yeah, when Disney buys WWE, as I keep saying. So, well, they still need to recover. What did they purchase last? Whatever they just purchased. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I remember that's the reason. Oh, they purchased Fox, so they're not cash flush anymore. That was the reason. That is the only reason I'm not strongly considering Disney as the buyer. So, and also, who would buy them at this state unless they're getting it for a steal?
Oh, I have another thing I learned this week, or actually learned last week, but reaffirmed this week, which is BattleBots is better than wrestling.
Oh, we didn't even talk about it. Yeah.
I was promised BattleBots talk.
Well, here it is. Well, yes, and I'm sorry it didn't come up in the first time.
It's okay.
Mad Mike did pitch, I think, to Krista Joseph on the show, a BattleBots Lucha Underground crossover at the time. So
incredible.
So it is in a circle. It is out in the wrestling world.
Did I spend a lot of time in the past week reading about all the bots in competition in the current season? Yes, I did.
So, and I went back because there's still a history, because I remember Mick Foley hosted one of the shows, and then Chris Jericho did, and I feel like another wrestler might have too. Like these different iterations of a BattleBots bot fighters kind of thing.
Yeah,
right?
so I think there probably have been like offshoots here and there, but BattleBots was a American version of Robot Wars from Britain.
Right.
And BattleBots started on Comedy Central, ran for 4 or 5 seasons, was defunct for a while, then got brought back by ABC in 2015, and then in 2018 went over to Discovery. So
holy shit.
Yeah. So there's 11 seasons of BattleBots. Did we know this was happening? No. We didn't know that secretly this whole time there's been BattleBots happening. Like legacy teams have been coming up. Celebrities have been involved in teams even. Like have had like exhibition matches for their bots who weren't regulation BattleBot competition, so they were only exhibition matches. Yes, that's a thing.
Was that the Brendan Fraser thing that Mike was talking about last night?
I don't know.
Because you mentioned something about Brendan Fraser was involved in something, couldn't make it to the team to be like the celebrity coach or something, but was texting his wife that was there.
I don't know. I love me some Brendan Fraser, so like I probably would have known that if it had come up in my BattleBots research.
Now we have to have that conversation with Mike. So, but check the end of the show last night, because I believe he mentioned it on air.
But yeah, the last 2 weeks where BattleBots has followed AEW Dynamite has been like the best. I leave at AEW Dynamite and I'm like, okay, that was fun. BattleBots time. All right, what's my girl Tantrum doing?
I was very excited. I did a adjunct position over at then PTI, Pittsburgh Technical Institute, now college, I think. And I stumbled on they were setting up to do their own battle bots. I'm just like, oh, like this is the coolest school ever. You know?
Like,
So,
was I looking up if it was possible to do a battle bots program for my teens at the library? Like, yes, I was.
Mhm.
I don't know that I have the like infrastructure in place, but like I would absolutely kill to do like a Robot Wars style thing for my teens.
Absolutely. So I'm gonna scan the chat room one more time and see if there's anything. That was post show. Okay, that was on our spaces last night. So I apologize. So you have to hold on. There we go. No to. There's just a lot of commentary while we're talking about. Oh, I learned this week from Alex Miller out in their SoCal. I've learned this week the amount of drugs and alcohol Kurt Angle was putting in his body is. We are lucky that he is alive. I think he was subject of the last A&E legends or something.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how much AEW took or WWE took over A&E on Sunday nights. There's like 3 or 4 hours of programming. It's ridiculous. So
well, now they took over. Now, The Rock and Dark Side of the Ring are working together. It's like they're just doing documentaries now.
Yeah.
So Vice has been doing wrestling stuff here and there, like where they were doing. Well, because they had another show too where they were just talking about like indie wrestlers or something, weren't they?
Which
on
one?
Vice?
On Vice? They had. Are you talking about the wrestlers?
I think it was just called The Wrestlers.
Yes. So there was a series by Damien of the band Fucked Up where he was doing different like little.
By the way, that's the greatest sentence ever.
I love that band, and when I found out that he was a huge wrestling fan, I was like, "Oh,
I've never heard
this
of
is
it.
the best
I gotta look it up.
Oh, it's great. They're actually in town not that long ago.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, so Damien of this Canadian band, this Canadian hardcore band, he is a huge wrestling fan, but he did this like limited run documentary series where he went to various. He has episodes that are about luchadoras. He has episodes that are specifically about Mia Yim and Alice Endangered, some women out of Shimmer. He has he has all kinds of cool episodes. They're just like little mini documentaries about various pockets of indie wrestling. And it's called The Wrestlers. I'm not sure. You used to be able to watch episodes on like Vice TV. I'm sure
It might
it's
be on
still around
Hulu
there.
as well because a lot of the Dark Side stuff's over there.
If you haven't watched The Wrestlers, please watch it. It's such a great show. It's such a great little series, and Dark Side of the Ring will often leave you kind of like depressed.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
a lot of The Wrestlers will leave you feeling like really interested and motivated to like find more of that stuff, or you'll just see some great workers that you're familiar with in like a slightly earlier version of their career, because he does do like there's lots of guys who are, this was years ago, so there's lots of guys who've blown up who were featured on that show.
Yeah, The Wrestlers is only involved with the live TV with Hulu, it seems. So yeah, but it might be on the Vice app too.
Or even just like check on like YouTube.
I
bet at least some episodes are around.
Yeah,
I think it was on Vice or IFC, one of those two, but it was definitely on one of those.
I think it's listed. I thought I just saw it listed as Vice on here. Watch with live TV. Yeah, it's just got the Vice logo on it. So they don't have the legends. They don't have all this like the rivals and the biography stuff from A&E on here either. So, but they do have Dark Side of the Ring, and I think they have all seasons of Dark Side of the Ring. So I went back. I started watching. I don't know if I finished the first season of Young Rock, but they have season 2 up on Hulu and Peacock, and I've been digging into that a bit, and it's just really fun to see. It's really fun to see people represented on there that I've met. Like Tony Atlas is on there a lot because that was his tag partner, or his dad's tag partner. Seeing the guy that I know becomes Batman Bigelow, seeing a Jerry Lawler, it's just really interesting how they represent people on there, and also just seeing all the wrestlers. Like this last episode, like they're doing whatever, and they're like, here's Macho Man, here's Jake with the Snake, in the ring doing their things as part of these montages, and I'm just like my childhood watching wrestling is being worked into a sitcom. It's just so weird.
You're getting to see this like televised version of the television you watched as
right?
a kid.
Exactly.
That layer of Inception is
it is.
insane.
It really is. Alex Cars, I'll reiterate. I learned you need a good team of support and money to run a wrestling show, and I think that is everything. So they do have local battle brats. There you go. On the West Coast? Of course on the West
Where?
Coast. Of course on the West Coast
West
they got it.
Coast,
Come
yeah.
on.
You guys
You're like, oh, we
with your
do it.
Silicon Valleys and your like
Yes.
bro tech cash.
Well, when I go to Silicon Valley next month, I'll be looking for the battle bots.
Get me the hot
I'll be at
battle
Starbucks
bots,
saying,
goss.
"Where are your battle bots?" And give me a pumpkin spice.
Sorry, I'm going to be coming to you for like the hot BattleBots tips for my BattleBots betting league. Or like start placing like under the table bets.
Hey, I work with a company that does online bets for MMA. We can pitch this to them, by the way. Be like,
BattleBots
listen,
bets.
listen, I know you're dealing with this MMA thing. I know it's betting things really hot. But we're saying, what do you think about the same thing for BattleBots? We just integrate it. They got this nice platform already.
I don't know. I think I'm gonna cut out the middleman. I'm just gonna start my own numbers game. It'll be very low key, like the old school numbers game. We're gonna run it out of my house.
Okay.
Just stop by, and you can put your numbers in an envelope, your BattleBots bets, and I'll pay out everyone in cash. There's no way this fails.
And if you have a gambling problem, I think I'm obligated to say to call 1-800-GAMBLING and they'll help you with your problem. I think that's
1-800.
I'm sorry, it's literally something like that. We legit have to have the people read it on the pay-per-views we do. Though with the gambling, we just had to go through this, and there's like a whole disclaimer process we had to go through when we're doing it. It gets complicated.
Call the gambler.
There's between that and then one time I had to do a gun bash live stream, and we had to make sure there was a locked camera on the ball poppers, like legally. So like logistically, and I found out an hour before the show, and I'm just like, okay, let's figure it out.
Again, there's so much we don't know.
Who's got iPhones?
If we learned anything, all of us this week, there's so much we don't know about doing shit.
Well, that's me every week. That's me every week in every show. There's like, we're doing what today? All right, we'll figure it out. That's every day of my life. So Emily, thank you so much. It's been so much fun to have you here on the show. I'm glad the neighborhood treated you some action on the way in the door.
Oh my goodness.
As you passed the police.
I always love Beachview. I always love coming back to Beachview, and it never fails to entertain.
That is for sure. The Riz plays games. Oh, a Great Glitter podcast. Subscribe.
Yeah, Great Glitter podcast every Tuesday. New episodes drop. You can find us on Apple or Spotify or anywhere you get your podcasts. We also have a Patreon at Great Glitter Pod. I shout it out mainly because we have some fun bonus content on there, and you can subscribe at the $1, $5, $10 level. You get lots of perks, and when you do that, we put the money right back into the wrestling ecosystem. So we're not like holding on to it to like spend on our own wrestling event. We are giving it to people who know what they're doing.
Well, that's a good idea for a tier, though. I just
give us $10,000 and we will run a wrestling show.
I think I did. I think if it was something like if we got to like $1,000 a month, we're going to throw a pizza party or something for everybody, which is hard because there's people like literally all over the country. So, but at that point, we would definitely
send them Pizza Hut free personal pan pizza coupons and make your own version of Book It, which everyone will be happy about. Slice personal pizzas. Start making them slice because I don't think they do personal pan pizzas.
Oh, they got different sizes. They got lots of stuff.
They got little guys.
They got small.
They got a little,
got
a little pizza pie.
Thing I learned outside of wrestling, the best Italian restaurant I've ever been to was definitely in an old Pizza Hut in the Poconos. So it was fantastic. So thank you so much, everybody. Riz Plays Games at Sorgatron on the Twitter. If you follow my adventures wherever that may lead me. So hopefully to a wrestling show just to have fun and maybe some jazz this weekend. I don't know. That's just life right now.
You gotta wear a little hat.
It's the jazz. They didn't make me wear a hat last time I did jazz.
Last time you did.
No, I produced the show.
Last time I did.
I produced a stream for a jazz show.
Are you on jazz right now?
I was in a jazz. I was in a jazz band momentarily in high school, but we need to move on. So I need to close this show. Thank you so much. You can ask me about my jazz experience at Sorgatron on the Twitter. And if you enjoy this, please, of course, follow our Patreon as well. Throw a buck at her. Throw a buck at us. Whatever. I'm throwing a buck at them too. Support. And as I used to say on the other show, we'll go this way. Please support independent wrestling and please support independent podcasts. We'll see you guys next time. Mayhem out.
Just wait, just wait, just wait, just wait. Wait for the perfect time, then attack. Don't give up what you want, take it back. Wait for the perfect time, then attack.
This show is a member of the Sorgatron Media Podcast Network. Find out more at sorgatronmedia.com.